Hello, beautiful internet family. My name is Dan Davis, and I'm the creative director here at DansTube.TV, as well as the Fearless Drone Academy, which is the ultimate online drone course for beginners. And today I've got my full review, my before you buy the DJI Avata. Now, I love to do this before you buy series on the channel. It's basically my initial review of the drone. It's everything you need to know, good, bad, ugly, in between, of my experiences with this drone so far. A very fun drone to fly overall. Probably the most fun I've actually had flying a drone in many years. The DJI Avata is like a Cinewhoop designed drone. It's got like the actual prop guards built into the frame itself. So this thing can take a beating. There have been a few moments where I've made like contact with a tree. It kind of grazed a few other like bushes and trees that I was flying around. This thing just keeps going though. Like I've never actually had it crash or had any issues with it. It's made contact, like I said, with a tree. The gimbal was kind of going a little crazy, but it kept going. The footage looked great. And this thing can definitely stand the test of time. My thoughts are based on me testing out the ProView combo. So that combo comes with the drone, a battery, a few other accessories, and then you get the motion controller. So you don't get a conventional controller, you get this joystick controller that you actually move in, an imaginary spatial world, and that actually controls the drone, which is surreal to experience. You also get the DJI Goggles 2, which are the newly updated FPV goggles from DJI. It's just the two little antennas that pop up now. Definitely looks like a bug. I absolutely love the design. It fits perfectly to your face, nice Velcro design, and just such a simple setup, included with the touch display on the side here, or the touch pad, I guess you would call it. So that's how you actually adjust and go through all the different settings and change different things. That works really well. I found that to be quite an intuitive kind of system to use, but that's how I'm testing out the DJI Avata with this setup here. First things first, let's talk about the drone. So like I said, it's a Cinewhoop designed drone, meaning that it has the propeller guards, built-in chassis. That means that if it is to make any sort of contact, it is most likely either going to continue flying, or if it does crash and land, you're not really going to break anything. This thing is built to last. There's definitely a few little scruff marks on it. There's a lot of grassy marks when it's kind of landed on the grass. But overall, no issues, even when I've made contact, like I said, with trees and a few other little bushes and whatnot in the environment. So the battery system itself, at first it took me a while to get used to it, but nice and easy to just slide out. You just literally press these buttons in, charge it, and then push it back in. It makes a clicking noise, and then you basically just have to plug it in down the bottom here. A lot of FPV pilots would be used to that. But it's just DJI making it a little bit easier for, I guess, the consumer, the novice, someone who's never flown FPV before. This kind of gives us the experience of FPV without having to worry about the drone crashing constantly. Because if you're flying full acro, or if you're flying FPV properly, it's going to take a long time to get used to it. But with that motion controller, you basically only fly in the basic kind of normal or sports mode, which means that it's actually really easy to fly, and you're getting some very unique FPV shots, but literally anyone could get used to it. You can see in my first video, I was a little hesitant. I was taking my time to get used to it, but after a few flights, I'm extremely confident now to fly it and get it to bank over trees and do really interesting maneuvers with full confidence that I'm gonna be able to get the shot. When you compare the Avata to other Cinewhoop design drones on the market, the battery life is normally not fantastic for other competitors on the market. But DJI, as they always do, wanted to innovate and create something a bit more unique here. So they've created a battery pack that gives you 18 minutes of flight time. Now for people out there, that probably doesn't sound like much, considering most drones now are about the 30-minute mark. But for an FPV drone like this, 18 minutes is freaking awesome. Before we go any further here, I do have some really cool specials exclusively for my audience. So if you want to pick yourself up the Avata, you can go over with the link in the description below to the D1 Store's website. There's a landing page there for DansTube.TV audience members, and you can check out some of the exclusive bundles over there where you can get some other really cool accessories with your drone and the other bundles that are available there. But also you can reach out to D1 directly, contact sales@d1store.com.au, mention DansTube, and you can unlock some special pricing to get whatever drone, accessory, or product you're looking for. Looking at the price point of the Avata, it's not a cheap drone by any means. This is quite an expensive drone, but you can see the amount of technology that's gone into this, the amount of research and development, and just the time and care they've taken to create a really fun FPV drone that, again, literally anyone can fly. I'm not even exaggerating. This thing does not take long to get used to, and it's a blast to use, honestly. So the price point, if you want to get that ProView combo, again, not cheap, it's 1,989 Australian dollars. So you've got to keep that in mind. If you want to get into the FPV space and you want to learn flying FPV, the ProView gives you like an introduction into what it feels like to fly an FPV drone. But again, you're not flying with a typical controller, so you can't go into that full acro mode where you can flip the drone and do crazy maneuvers. It is quite limited in that sense, but you still can get some very unique shots once you've got it all loaded up and you connect it to all the different pieces you need to connect it to. So with that in mind, you kind of need to get yourself a bag because it comes with the drone, and then you've got like this little battery pack that powers the headset, and that's like a separate thing. And then you've got this controller, so you need to charge this, the battery pack, and also the drone's battery as well. So that's 3 things you need to keep charged at all times. The controller itself seems to hold charge for a very long time. And also this battery pack here, I'm getting, a decent amount of use out of it. I've only got the 1 battery for the Avata, so I'm probably using like 1 bar on the battery pack with 1 flight. So if you had multiple batteries, you would get multiple flights with these 2 devices, and then you would just charge everything together. But if you're gonna get the ProView combo, you're only getting these 3 with the 1 battery. That's a lot of charging. So just keep that in mind. It definitely does take a big process to kind of get everything ready for your first flight. DJI have definitely gone for more of a cinematic style FPV drone here. They've gone all out with this camera system. It is kind of a fixed camera system, so it can only really look up and down, but because it's using the rock steady technology that we've seen in other DJI products, it does seem to stabilize the footage nicely. So Rocksteady is like a digital stabilization, but it does a fantastic job, honestly. Like no matter what's going on, it just looks buttery smooth. I did fly the drone in some crazy high winds. The first flight I did, the winds were too much. I was actually in a secluded like foresty area. It was like 50-kilometer winds at that point, or 50-kilometer gusts. When I flew today as well, the winds were pretty heavy. And I will say that like the footage, at times you can see it moving a little bit, nothing like terrible. It still does an amazing job of stabilizing it. But I wouldn't really recommend flying this drone in strong winds. It's definitely not for that. But the fact that it is so small, like if you are to be, wanting to shoot some things like in a house and you've obviously got permission to do it, or if you want to get some tight gaps where you're kind of doing those all-in-one shots where it's going between a tree and then someone's doing something, you fly, between their legs or something like that. You see a bunch of that stuff all over the internet. Then this is the kind of drone that you would want to do that with, because it's obviously a lot safer with the prop guards and the fact that it's very nimble, like you can get those really cool tight shots with it. The camera system is a 1/1.7 inch CMOS sensor. It's capable of capturing 4K up to 60 frames per second. I was pretty happy with the video quality. I definitely wouldn't say it's the best video quality I've seen from a DJI drone. That's kind of expected though. Like it is a great camera system, but it's definitely not the best one on the market. So just keep that in mind. Like if you're hoping for like the best quality video in the world, it's like not comparing with like an Air 2S, for example, or a Mavic 3, which I guess most people would expect that. But it is still capturing some great video. And the fact that it's got a 1/1.7 inch CMOS sensor, like it's great in all kind of lighting situations. And it does a great job in all of the different environments that I put it in. When we're talking video quality here, I would say that they've done a great job for an FPV drone. Because if you look at the other like competitors out there or the other options, a lot of the time people are strapping on like GoPros or Osmo Actions or other action cameras. They're literally strapping on these relatively large action camera systems onto an FPV drone. So the fact that this is a tiny little camera system tucked in there, the fact that it's got these little kind of lips that come out to protect the lens, it's designed really well to take a bunch of hits and to have a camera system that's tucked nicely away. So it can actually take a head-on collision and still survive. The fact that it's obviously got the prop guards means that, it can survive a lot of situations. So to have such a small camera system that is reliable, I found that when I was flying at high speeds, the video does look great. And I found that the performance of the video was great. Like even if I was flying past lots of fast stuff, It seemed to capture everything nicely. There was no sort of trailing or issues with the actual video quality. So overall, as you would expect, really great video from a DJI product. Their camera systems are always fantastic. So this is no exception there. And I think to have that all-in-one package is something that a lot of people, would want to have, especially if you're getting into the FPV space for the first time. Maybe you don't want to learn about, the modular side of things and programming it and like really playing around with building your own unit. Maybe you just want to start out with something like this and you have the money. I mean, that's not too many people, I would imagine. It is quite an expensive unit to have this as your like first FPV drone, but man, like it's so much fun to fly it with the motion controller. When you've got it all set up and it's all connected to all the different devices, you're actually getting 10 kilometers of range from this unit here, which is insane. Like that's amazing. I never had it drop out. I never really flew too far away. I did want to keep it relatively close because it's a different experience for me, especially having the FPV headset on. I made sure I was away from people and I found secluded spots because, it is a dangerous thing, especially if you're flying relatively low. Like you want to make sure that you're away from people, and it's a different experience altogether. It's a whole different flight experience. So you want to really make sure that you know how to do it. But 10 kilometers of range with OcuSync 3 Plus is great. OcuSync 3 Plus is actually what we saw on the Mavic 3, although that can get a range of 15 kilometers if I'm not wrong. We're getting 10 kilometers of range here, which again, you will never going to go that far because you always need to keep it in line of sight. But to be able to have that buffer point, like if there's a lot of reception, like frequencies around you, then to be able to have that buffer point and to be able to fly without any sort of interruptions is exactly what you want, especially when you're focusing on an FPV. It's a little bit disorientating if you're used to flying with just the controller and looking up at the drone. It's a whole different experience. I was trying to think who this drone was for because a lot of FPV pilots, I don't know whether they're going to dive at this unit here. I could be wrong, definitely let me know in the comments below, but I feel like DJI may be trying to introduce a whole new generation of people into FPV, and they're trying to make it really fun. Like this is a novel experience to be able to use this controller here. I would love to know in the comments below though, if you've never flown FPV before, is this the kind of drone you would get for your first drone, or would you want to learn how to build them and do everything that the FPV pilots do, which is extremely involved, and I definitely take my hat off to all the FPV pilots out there? Or is this for someone who actually is a professional and just wants to get something with amazing range? Because a lot of the time, you're not going to get a system like this with high definition transmission to your eyes. Like the video quality is insane. The live transmission to your headset is immaculate. You have no delay or anything like that. So if you want something like this whole setup, maybe it is for someone that is a bit more professional, but I would love to know, who is this for? Let me know in the comments below. But moving on to this guy here, this is the motion controller. Looks like a little joystick, and it's the most satisfying thing to use. It's just insane. It's so much fun. It's such a simple system and very comfortable to use. It's basically the trigger on the back is how you accelerate. And then when you're looking on the screen through the headset, you'll see a little circle. And basically, based on where you're moving your hand, if you're rotating your wrist left and right, if you're angling down or if you're angling up, that circle is going to move based on where you're moving your hand. So then from there, you gently squeeze on that accelerator, and that's where the drone's going to move. So you can actually angle up to get the camera looking up as you're kind of angling around a tree, on a diagonal, and then banking back down the other side. You can do all of that, and it's going to be doing it basically from the movement of your hand. So that to me was surreal. I'd never experienced anything like that. And to be able to have that amount of control and to feel confident after a while, after 2-3 flights, I was just unbelievably confident. I just put this thing in sports mode and I just launch it around, and I don't feel as hesitant anymore. I definitely was when I started, and I still was the first couple of flights after that. But 3, 4, 5 flights into it, and I just feel confident to take it out and just launch it. So this is the standout thing for me. Being able to have a controller like this is just so unique. We're all used to using controllers now for games and for other drones and whatnot. But to have a joystick like this that actually uses motion control to be able to control exactly where the drone goes, it just was interesting to see that I got used to it instantly. It was so intuitive in the sense that where the circle is pointing, I know that that's where the drone's going. If I want to go up and then, dive back down, I knew that all I had to do was gently tilt it down. And then if I wanted to turn, I would just start rotating my wrist. And it just started becoming a thing where like my brain just knew what to do. I didn't really have to think about it. At first I was kind of like, well, what do I press? What am I doing? But after a while, it was just one of those things that became second nature to me. I will say the motion controller was very responsive. I had no issues with like latency or delay. In terms of like the responsiveness of all the buttons, again, perfectly fine. Like it worked exactly as you would imagine it would. The emergency brake is impressive. Like there's a video on TikTok of me pressing that emergency brake just before it gets to me, and you can just see it just stops on a dime. Like it just stops instantly, and that's really nice to see, especially if you're about to come into like a bunch of trees and there's no way around it, you can't go above them. Press that emergency brake and you're safe. You don't have to worry about any sort of rotation because it just locks everything and the drone just hovers. So that's something that's really cool, especially if you're new to FPV and you've never flown it, you don't really know what to do. Like being able to just press that button and then the drone just hovers. You don't have to worry about keeping the drone at that altitude, because a lot of FPV pilots, they're keeping it at that altitude with all those stick inputs. This just hovers for you. So it is kind of like other DJI drones in that sense, where once it's launched, it just hovers and holds that position. And it does a great job of just holding it exactly where it is. Same thing happens when you press that emergency brake. The button feels great and you just see it comes up with a pause button on the like display, and that's it, it just hovers there. Press the button one more time and then you're back into that motion control again. The headset gives you 1080p of video transmission quality, which is amazing, and you're not getting that from a lot of other competitors out there. So you're getting really nice crystal clear visuals straight into your eyeballs, and that really does help when you're flying a drone of this caliber, like when it's really fast and you're low to the ground and you're trying to get close shots by trees and whatnot. Like having that really nice crispy video quality is important. And then the fact that it's low latency, apparently 30 milliseconds of video transmission latency, so pretty much nothing. Like I never noticed it dropped out. I never had any sort of delay or anything. It was just instant for me. So again, that's really nice to see. Like I said, 10 kilometers, I said this before, 10 kilometers of transmission range, which is phenomenal. Up to 100 frames per second of max video transmission frame rate, which again is really nice. 50 megabits per second of the max video transmission bit rate, which is okay. Like I was thinking that was going to be a bit more, but I mean, that does the job. And then you get the H.265 video transmission coding. So you kind of get everything you need. Like it is a really high quality system here that you're getting, and that transmission is phenomenal. The Avata does have a downward obstacle sensing system on the drone itself. So that actually works really well because it means that you can get some really low flying shots, but knowing that the drone is actually aware that there's something below it. So it kind of stops you from really hitting the floor, amazingly enough. Like I tested it really low and I just kept pushing it, and the drone's pretty smart. Like it knows that it's close to the ground, but it won't really let you push it any further down. But it still kind of gives you the full control to fly it. So that was really cool to see because it allows you to get those nice low shots. And the fact that it's got a really wide field of view on the camera system just allows you to get some very unique perspectives as you're whizzing past things and as you're really low to the ground as well. The Avata has a bunch of other really cool features, including something called turtle mode, which a lot of FPV people will be very used to. But if the drone lands like that, put it in turtle mode and it will flip the drone back, and then you can just launch straight away. You don't even have to go and collect the drone. Obviously, depending on the situation, if you're in tall grass, probably not going to flip over and then launch. But the fact that you can do that on this drone is kind of expected for an FPV drone if you're used to that space. But it's a nice feature. But besides that, like just the overall experience, that you got to remember, I haven't really flown too much FPV. I've done a few videos on the channel, a few things that didn't go too well on the channel as well. But this is like my first true experience with the motion controller and with a Cinewhoop designed drone like this. I've probably pronounced Cinewhoop completely incorrectly. Let me know in the comments below. I've probably also said DJI Avata completely wrong. Is it Avata? Is it Avata? Let me know in the comments below if I've said anything wrong. I love having a chat with you guys in the comments. But yeah, honestly, like for something like this that is very unique to me, it's something I haven't flown before. Getting confident to fly nice and close to trees is something that I've never really done before. Like even when I tested the DJI FPV drone, which is a fantastic drone as well, I found myself like still nervous to get close to the tree, because if a prop was to touch the tree, it would just collapse down. You know, like any sort of contact is probably gonna crash. But having these prop guards actually does make a big difference, because you can have little impacts and the drone can keep flying. The fact that it's also got that stabilized video, like it's got rock steady as well as horizon steady. So both really cool features to have on an FPV drone. But overall, like, regardless of all of those things, having a high quality video and a fun motion controller with an immersive headset, like, that just is so much fun. So if you have any sort of opportunity to be able to test one of these, like even borrowing it, renting it from a store, if that's an option for you, definitely check it out, because it's a whole new world. It will open up your creative mindset. Like, the amount of times I'll see something now and I'm like, oh, need to get the Avata and fly through that gap, or need to kind of bank around that thing. So this thing definitely does create a different sort of thought process for your creative pursuits. And it is a lot of fun to have in your toolkit. Again, it's not for everyone. I think it is quite an expensive unit if you're not at all in that FPV space. It's quite an expensive starting point for some people, but maybe it is a good starting point because it's such a safe starting point. The fact that it's got all those safety features, you know, it's got sensors down below, it's got that emergency brake, got the prop guards, obviously. It just does create a very safe flight experience for a lot of people, but also for professionals out there. Like, it gives you the full kit, a very reliable, robust kit that will last for a very long time. And, you know, the only things that are probably going to break on you, if at all, are going to be the propellers, and they're nice and easy to replace. The fact that the camera's protected, the fact there's nothing else here that's really going to get damaged. Like, this thing can take a beating. So that was something that I was worried about with other DJI drones, like the DJI FPV, for example. A bit more exposed. I was definitely a little bit more nervous flying that. Where this guy, you can be a lot more confident with it, and it definitely does everything you put it to. Like, it does a great job. So anyway, that's my initial review, my before you buy the DJI Avata. Again, it's not for everyone. I would love to know in the comments below if you're thinking about picking it up, and if you have flown FPV, if you haven't flown FPV, like, what kind of thoughts come up for you? Is this the drone to go for, or is it just too expensive for you? But that's everything. I will have some more content on the channel very soon for the Avata. I've got some fun TikToks and some other like Instagram videos and Facebook stuff on all of those socials. So go and check that out, because you kind of get some behind the scenes and some unique stuff that's going on for the channel before it even pops up on the channel. So check that out as well. I will chat to you in the next video though. Thank you so much for all of the amazing support, and peace out.